and welcome to another Sunrise Human Design video. Today we're going to be talking about the concept of sacral versus non-sacral in human design. My name is Trini Cubillos and I love talking about human design. I'm going to start by telling you that I'm going to be talking about a meme that I saw on Instagram in the account Projectors Invited. I'll show it to you on the screen. And I wanted to start by just mentioning that because I am a sacral being, I am a generator. And this is a really good example of what being a generator is like. Sacral beings have the sacral defined, and we're meant to be responding to things that are outside of ourselves and giving our energy to those things that call us through our sacral energy. So for me, my thing is talking about human design in the internet. But if I just kind of sit there and think of a topic and speak, it's not really correct for me. It doesn't feel good. But when I'm browsing around the internet, when I'm looking at human design content, there's certain content that goes sort of like, not really any sacral response. And then there's content that for some reason, nothing to do with my head, gives me a response and gives me this like want and fire to talk about and explain. So I thought it would be a good idea to do videos based on other people's content that gave me a gut response. I wanted to add that in there in the beginning of this video, just because I think it's really cool to hear about how we use human design in real life, and it can be super helpful to hear that if you are a sacral being. Okay, so this meme says, that sudden urge to do all the things and get your life together after hanging out with a bunch of defined sacrals. And in the picture, you can see Reese Witherspoon like super overwhelmed with an overwhelmed face being like, what am I going to do with my life kind of look. So I wanted to use this meme to explain what the defined sacrals thing is and why it affects people with undefined sacral so much. So a little bit of the basics. The sacral is the second chakra from the bottom of the chart up. We start with a root that's a square, and then the second square is the sacral. If you have it in color, that means that it is defined for you. And if you have it white, that means that it is undefined for you. Types that have it defined are generators and manifesting generators. So if you have the sacral defined, you are absolutely always a generator or a subtype manifesting generator. Everyone else has a sacral undefined. So manifestors, reflectors, and projectors. Theoretically, in human design, when you have a sacral defined, you have a lot of energy and you're meant to be constantly putting that energy out into the world. You generate a gut response to things around you. And then the correct thing to do when you're following your human design, when you're following your strategy and authority, is to put your energy into those things where your gut has said yes to. So as you go finding the flow of this strategy and authority thing for you, you end up having more and more vitality and more energy to put into the right things in your life. And so when you look at a generator that is operating correctly, they're waking up in the morning and doing things and doing things and doing things and going to bed exhausted and then doing the same thing all over again the next day. However, when you look at beings that don't have the sacral defined, they don't have a consistent energy source because the sacral center is sort of like this battery that when you feed it the right things, the things that are correct for you as a generator, it keeps getting filled up and you have battery all the time. But when you have this center, the sacral chakra, when you have it undefined, you don't have consistent energy source for you to keep going all the time. And wait, this is not a bad thing. A lot of people get really disempowered by this, but there's actually a reason behind this, which is that you're not meant to be going and going and doing all the time. You're actually here with a very different purpose. For example, if you're a projector, you're here to guide the energy, not to be the energy. I have a video about this, so check it out. But what happens when sacrals and non-sacrals are together in the same space, in the same room, for example? Because remember that auras, when you are together, they interact. The energy fields of two people interact. And so if you are a person with an undefined sacral and you're next to a person that does have a defined sacral, you're going to feel a pressure to do things. This can be a positive thing because sometimes you can sort of ride the sacral energy. So if you're in a group project, for example, in school, and you were an undefined sacral person and there was a sacral being or more than one sacral being probably in your group, then you're kind of going to feel energized for that bit of time. But then you're going to go home and go back to being the self that needs more rest, that needs to pause more often, that is not designed to be go, go, go all the time. But it's super important to realize that when you are in an aura with somebody else, that defined center that you have undefined feels like pressure. And you're going to feel that energy of the other person, but you're going to feel it amplified. So the white centers or undefined centers in our chart are where we're meant to feel the world around us, to feel the people around us in our relationships. The centers that are defined in our chart are what we are, the energy that we carry with us all the time, and like a Wi-Fi signal, we're always pushing it out into the world. That's what we came here to share. And when we have white in our chart, that is where we're meant to feel other people's energy. And because it's not ours, we get to see that it's not ours with the use of our consciousness. And that gives us an ability to really look and understand those energies and eventually become wise. But before we become wise about those energies, we have a hard time with those energies, and we feel those energies as a really big pressure. And a lot of the time, it's a really big pressure to act as if we're not. With the defined sacral or undefined sacral beings, the defined sacral feels like a pressure to do more, like a pressure to be more like these people that are always on the go and always able to have this consistent energy. So let's get back to the meme. When a person with an undefined sacral is around a bunch of sacrals and then goes home, if that person doesn't have their design and consciousness, or doesn't have this ability to like go back to center and realize that any feeling of pressure is not theirs, they're going to feel all of a sudden like their life sucks, like they're not good enough, like they're not doing enough, maybe like they're lazy, and they're going to feel this pressure to like, what am I going to do with my life so that I can become like these people that seem to have it all figured out. Okay, so what can we learn from this meme, especially for people with undefined sacrals, because I feel like that's where the big lesson is in this scenario? Two things. One thing is it can be really useful to understand your human design, because then you know, oh, I have an undefined sacral, and just being around different people, considering that like 70% of the population is a sacral being, most people you are around might make you feel a pressure to be something rather than who you are. So just knowing that that might happen can be a huge shifter in your life for whenever that pressure comes in, and then the mind starts translating into, you are not good enough, you need to change this, there's something that's not good enough about you yet. Then you can recognize that as a voice of conditioning, and you can say, hi, I see you, but that's not where I move. That's not where I make my decisions from. I'm going to go back to center. So just knowing that you have an undefined sacral can be super useful. Now, the second tip that I'm going to give you about this that is important is that as a being with an undefined sacral, it's super important for you to find space. Yes, you can be around sacrals. Yes, it can feel great and invigorating, and you can actually even piggyback on this energy and use it in your own life. But the shadow of the undefined sacral, and that just means what we tend to do with an undefined sacral is we don't know when enough is enough. So if you can form a habit of constantly checking in with yourself, and that means going into a space where you are alone in your own aura, physically alone, without touching or being close to other people, then that's going to help you go back to center. It's going to be hard to feel yourself, to understand yourself, to know what's going on within you if you just stay in that environment with a bunch of people. But if you just make a habit of going into a room by yourself and just sitting down with yourself for 5 minutes, that can really kind of clean out your sacral, clean out the outside influences and the pressures that you're feeling, and remind you of what you are feeling and what you need in the moment. Because sometimes it's just those little 5 minutes with yourself that remind you that it's time to go home, that you actually feel like going to go get a rest. And that rest or that going home is literally what makes it or break it from you, from like reaching a point where you're burnt out and then can't function properly anymore, or where you can have fun with those sacral people, go home, and then do it all again and enjoy it the next day. So I hope that this video served for you to understand a little bit either your undefined sacral and how to deal with it, or how to live it a little bit better, or if you have a defined sacral, how you can affect the people around you. And maybe you're in a relationship with someone with an undefined sacral, and it can be super helpful to just understand their energy. Thank you to Projectors Invited for posting this awesome content. And if you super related to something I said in this video, I would really love to know your experience with human design below. I love reading everything that you write in the comments. If you have any ideas of anything that you want me to post next, also write it down in the comments below. If you like this new channel and this free content, give it a like. Support me also by hitting the notifications bell so that you get notified every week when the new video comes up. Remember to stay true to you, and I'll see you in the next video.